last problem for 6.1. Like I said, this is definitely the hardest problem that we've got. I started the lesson by telling you there will be some problems like these on your exam. You will not have any this hard. This is just kind of this is about as hard as it gets for us. If you can do this, you can conquer anything sort of problem. Now, first reason this problem is so awful is because it requires you at first to see that this is actually factorable, which is not an easy thing to see. I can actually factor that as x minus 2y times x minus y. Which is not an easy thing to be able to notice right off the bat. But the reason we can factor it, or the reason we do factor it, is because now, because it equals 0, I can set each of those factors individually equal to 0. So I can say x minus 2y equals 0, and x minus y equals 0. And this factoring thing is actually the easiest way to try to solve this problem. There are other ways I tried. I ended up going for 30 minutes before getting stuck. This is really about it. So, now that I've got this, I've got two substitutions that I can do. Now, you may quickly want to just solve for x, because that's the easiest to solve for. But I've done this problem, and I tell you right now, solving for x is way harder in the end. It's more work than if you solve for y right here. So, because I've worked it through both ways, I am just going to save you the time and have you solve for y. So there's my two substitutions. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other equation, because I've already dealt with this one, so I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to plug those in for y. So I'm taking my x squared plus xy equals 6. And I am plugging these equations in for y. So this one I've got a 1/2 x, and this one I've got an x. So this becomes x squared plus x times 1/2 x is 1/2 x squared. And this becomes x squared plus x squared. So this becomes 3/2 x squared, and this becomes 2x squared, which aren't too bad to solve for, all things considered. Times this by 2/3, you get x squared equals 4. Square root that to get x is plus or minus 2. And this one, x squared equals 3. Square root that to get x equals plus or minus square root of 3. So at this point, I now have 4x solutions. I have x equals positive 2, x equals negative 2, x equals square root of 3, and x equals negative square root of 3. All 4 of these seem to be solutions right now. So now what I'll do is plug those into either equation, either starting equation to solve for y. So I can plug these into this one, solve for y, or I can plug these into this one and solve for y. There's definitely one that's easier. It is a lot easier to plug them into that one and solve for y. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take all of these x's and plug the x values in. So this one I'll plug in an x value of 2. This one plug in an x value of negative 2. This one plug in root 3. And this one negative root 3. And now let's do a lot of solving. So this one becomes 4 plus 2y equals 6. Get y equals 1. Ta-da! First one finished. This one I get 4 minus 2y equals 6. Get y equals negative 1. Ta-da! Finished with that one. This one, root 3 squared is 3. There's our third one. And last one. Ta-da! So I have 4 points here. X values are 2, negative 2, root 3, negative root 3. Y values are 1, negative 1, 3 over root 3, negative 3 over root 3. And technically, you would need to plug all these points into the first equation to make sure that they all still work for the first one as well as the second one that you already plugged them into. However, I'm going to save you time and say I already did that, and all 4 do end up working. So that is our hardest nonlinear problem. Thank goodness for the rest of the chapter, we're only dealing with linear equations. So you are officially done with 6.1. Remember, there's no homework for this lesson, but it will be on your exam. So if you're still feeling a little iffy about this lesson, I would suggest you go do some extra practice problems just to make sure you're ready for these questions on your exam.